Mm. Hey, morning, everybody. All right, so yeah, markets are under a lot of pressure. Rents are saying just waking up. Why do we drop 1% overnight? I have no positions. Rate hike. Yeah, it's coming down to a couple different things here. Primarily interest rates. Yields are surging across the board globally. You've had Japanese rates hit highs. You're having our 20, 30 years just absolutely soaring and roaring. Take a look at our US two-year yield now pricing in setting a higher high. So this is now swinging the probabilities in favor of a potential rate hike in the US. Whether that happens, we will certainly see. But the two-year yield is now well over the 3.5 to 3.75 current Fed rate. And then more specifically, when you start going out on the longer end of the curve, look at that 10-year yield. Although it's into quite a decent resistance trend line going back to 2023 pivot, and you're tapping into that zone right now, this is still a massive move. And then you go even farther out, US 30-year yield over 5.1%. The crazy thing is the long end yields have really started to perk up, and that is a big, big problem across the board. That is telling us that inflation expectations are not only being priced in the short term. We've had this week CPI, PPI. I mean, the market should have just cratered on those numbers, specifically the PPI, and they managed to keep it fairly elevated for a day or two, probably because people were trading zero DTEs. Now, none of the zero DTEs are getting paid out because unless you swung puts or shorted last night, you're basically missing this massive gap down in the market. Um, I'm going to be closing out my silver puts SLV 75s. I did swing those at the beginning of the week. They were very choppy. Managed to stay in them, and those should be opening up quite nicely in the money. I mean, we're over 5, 6 bucks in the money here on SLV. Our semiconductor ETF SOXX is seeing a bit of downside pressure this morning. I think that this one should or could potentially retest this low pivot. And if things get really nasty, maybe even fill this downside gap at 492, which would be one hell of a drop in your semiconductors for a single session. But it's certainly something that could happen. We will obviously wait and see. There's still a lot of bullish bias and momentum in the market, so just keep that in mind. SOXS this morning gapping up over $9, trying to break out of this little downsloping trend line. The high that I could see SOXX is somewhere between 950 and maybe a sweep of this high. And then ultimately this gap fill would be nice to see. But across the board, we are seeing pretty much it's a carnage session. There are pockets of strength. Specifically, your financials, XLF is actually holding somewhat steady. Then there's glimmers of hope in software. Look at Microsoft. Microsoft holding steady, up about 3, 4 bucks here in the pre-market. You got strength in some software. ServiceNow pushing. CRM still pushing higher. IGV is still weak just with the broad sell pressure in the market. But the fact that certain software stocks are holding steady is a very positive sign in the near term. BTC also making that move yesterday, pushing up and getting slapped and rejected here yet again. Still holding up relatively well, but a lot of parabolic stocks out there. Again, so I'll be taking profits on my 75 puts on silver. Could set to open here. A nice little bounce here in the S&P 500. 5 minutes till the open. You've got Meta down 1.48, Tesla down 2.47, Intel getting smacked around down 4.8%, AMD down 3.5%, Apple down half, Google down 1.5, Nvidia down 2.8%. QQQ leading the charge to the downside, down 1.58. Actually, the IWM is leading the charge to the downside. That's down 1.52. Q's down 1.48, and SPY holding up relatively well. Crude oil is green, natural gas is green, commodities are getting slapped again. VIX is up 9.62%. So, although there's probably going to be an interesting dip buy at some point, it does look like it should be a fade the pop market today, guys. I would be shocked if they try to push these markets even back, maybe pre-market high you could see a move to, but I think that we're gonna get a short the pop day today. Three minutes till the open. Russia's indicated zero. So I'll be closing my SLV puts, guys, at the open. I'll be taking profits on those 75s. So a pretty big bounce on SPY off of the pre-market level. Let's look at the Qs here. QQQ also seeing a really sharp bounce. Markets are open, sesame. Nice drop still in the market. Really good drop. Nvidia coming in. Intel still seeing weakness. Microsoft is ripping and roaring here, guys. MSFT shaking. S&P still getting smoked here. As I close my SLV puts at 545, 545. Beautiful. So 330% gain on SLV puts, guys. Look at SPY just melting here. She melting heavy. Crazy. So 330% gain on those SLV puts, guys. Nice trade if you caught that. Microsoft starting to come in a little bit. Intel, Tesla still being slammed. IWM getting rocked. Gold, silver under a lot of pressure. Our Nokia puts are printing. Nice rotation hitting Netflix. Netflix is seeing a really strong move. Really big move up. Markets are still selling off pretty sharply here. Crude oil still up 1.68%, but fading a little bit. Semis are still seeing hard rejection now. Software is getting rejected. Microsoft still holding steady. Staples Healthcare getting a nice bid here. They are green. Market's still super duper heavy here, guys. Silver is getting smoked here. Sheesh. Eyes just draining hard and fast. Market's still getting pummeled here. Silver's at an interesting spot for a potential long, guys. SLV $70 calls may work out here. It's super risky trying to buy the dip, but silver should get a bounce off of this level. Dollar's still trying to press higher. SOXX is still melting. Guys, I'm going to take a lotto trade on SLV $70 calls. SLV $70 calls. Risky. Market's still under a lot of pressure. Dollar softening a touch. S&P's trying to bounce a little bit. Let's buy. IGV, guys, is still pumping. No real bid yet in silver. Dollar's seeing a little bit of sell side. Silver's still draining here. Crazy. Sheesh. Expecting silver to potentially retrace the 76.97, your 50-day moving average on silver. So I think it could retest. SPY still seeing heaviness. Semis are still seeing sell side pressure. SOXX is barely caught a bid here. SOXX is up 11.9%. Nice bounce in silver starting. Come on. Give us something more. You can do it. You can do it. SPY still being drained. IGV now coming in. Gold is still getting hammered, but hitting a big NFP level. Yeah, that's a really big level. Silver, bounce it. Market's still being slaughtered here. Lots of red out there. Staples are holding steady. Intel still sharply down. IGV back to the dark side. Microsoft is ripping up 1.6%. Go figure. Microsoft couldn't rip in a bull market. Now it's the only stock that's catching some love today. Sheesh. Still ripping here. Holy moly. Just went negative, so now other sectors are joining the sell side pressure. Dollar still trying to push higher. Crude oil still trying to push higher. Silver still being drained here pretty quickly, down 8.96%. Gold is basically piercing a previous January NFP high level. Wow, S&P is getting smoked. SOXX is getting smoked. SOXX is down 4.16% and drilling. Gold down 2.9, silver down 9%. Holy moly. Fully liquidating silver right now. Nokia down about 5%. McDonald's green, Constellation Brands green, Healthcare green, Zoetis green, Netflix having a good day. ServiceNow still holding steady. CRM green, Microsoft green, XLF is green. Baba down 5.5. GoDaddy's green, so software still holding steady. Trade Desk green. Natural gas resource stocks are green. Kraft Heinz ketchup green. AMD down about 5%. Google down 1.5. Bitcoin down 2.3. All right, a little bit of a bounce starting to occur. Coming into the mix, Dixie still ripping, gold catching some liquidity. IGV still flexing its muscles. Gold still trying to defend its January NFP high level. Dollar still trying to push higher. Crude still trying to show its strength off that opening range high level. SOXX down 3.7. You got IWM down 2.23. SPY down 1.1. QQ down 1.6. Silver down 8.77. SPY still trying to hang on to the 739 zone. Marvell only down 2.7. It's trying to hold steady. Just catching a nice bounce here. Silver's trying. SOX testing 930. SPY still getting smacked around. Intel near the lows. IGV still trying to hold somewhat steady here. Struggling a little bit. I still trying to muster up some strength here, guys. Gold's still making a nice push. Your DXY is seeing a little bit of sell side pressure off that pre-market high. Come on, silver. Big push. Give it to us. Come on. You can do it. Big bounce on SPY. Silver's trying to push back to that 50-day moving average. I have a volume shelf on SLV at $70.26. Have an NFP low where gold is getting defended at, but silver's underneath it. Silver's NFP is around $70.87 on SLV. Come on, don't fucking stall out here, silver. The dollar is still seeing a little bit of sell side pressure, just some minor. Big bounce in the tape. Market's still seeing a lot of sell side pressure. IGV still holding steady. Microsoft is your only green mag. Netflix is also strong this morning. McDonald's having a nice session. ServiceNow, CRM, Oracle, Intel new low of day. Still getting liquidated here. Microsoft still holding 415 like a rock star. Nasty little sell there in the market. Silver, oil, dollar still trying to push. Bitcoin down almost 3%. Semis are still seeing overwhelming sell pressure. Gold now seeing more selling. Intel's still draining here, guys. New lows. Yeah, dust is to the ground. Miners are weak for sure. Microsoft still pumping. SPY still trying. Still seeing heavy sell side pressure in the metals. A lot of selling. SPY's still trying to stabilize here. Nasty drop there on silver. The bounce was very short lived for now. Staples are still showing their strength. McDonald's still having a nice session. Netflix is still pushing. Microsoft looks like it wants to take out the highs of the session again. MSFT trying to flex its muscles. Looking at SOXX here. SOXX is still seeing quite a bit of downside pressure. Our Nokia puts, they've been printing quite nicely. Still riding these silvers. Let's see. Nice bounce starting to hit the tape. Intel's still super duper weak. Silver still trying to defend price here. Gold is still holding above that January NFP high, which makes me think it has a chance at pushing a little bit higher. Silver, though, is just gnarly. Gnarly down here. Silver needs to get back above that NFP low. It is sitting on a bit of a volume shelf on the 5-minute. Let's see where the 4-hour chart is. Oof. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough, man. Microsoft still ripping. Up 1.87. Love and life. IGV still green on the session. But US dollar is still so strong. That's what's hindering these metals right now. S&P still struggling immensely. Donald's still holding nicely. Copper stocks are wrecked today. X oil's taking a little bit of a breather. Microsoft going for a new high a day, lifting this market, trying to single-handedly. Still sitting right on pre-market low for SPY. IWM still down over 2.16 yields. 10-year yield up 2.14, still surging, man. 2-year yield up 1.6. Crazy. Taking a bit of a breather. Dollar getting rejected off its pre-market high and OR high levels. This is where the market could make a little bit of a push back to OR high, but there's still a big short the pot mode, guys. So I don't know how high or how far we bounce. With the VIX elevated yield still surging, I mean, it's tough tape. Dollar breaking on the daily chart. Software still shaking and moving this morning. Go figure GME is green out of all stocks. So you still got software leading the charge to the upside right now. IONQ down 10%. I like it. Nvidia down 4.1. Nvidia is almost unwinding that full move from yesterday. Pretty nuts, eh? So about 250 billion flowed into Nvidia yesterday, and basically that is flowing out today. And it seems that 250 billion isn't outright leaving the market, although a big share of it is. It is definitely bidding up some software today and staples. Look at Microsoft still ripping. Netflix still acting well, pulling back slightly. Come on, SLV, get your fat ass off the ground. Dollar softening quite a bit here. What's gold doing? Yep, gold's still trying to push higher here. Hmm. Service now having a nice session. IGV still remaining intact and bullish. Look at that move on IGV. Completely different to the indices, eh? Pretty crazy. Service now acting well. Oracle, CRM. Wow, what a move on CRM. MSFT. How's Palantir doing? Lagging a little bit. AppLovin still strong. TTD, that's holding steady. Interesting. Microsoft going for a new high, still getting bid up with force. Silver still trying to get above its pre-market low. SLV still struggling, man. Dollar softening still. Nice little push in the S&P. Semis are catching a bit of a bounce, and as the semis are bouncing, you're seeing a bit of sell side pressure hitting Microsoft and certain software names. So you're still seeing that rotation between the two sectors quite firmly here. Come on, silver, get going. Fucking move up here. Silver's bubbling up into its pre-market low, 76.39, trying to get through it. Nice push up here. Trying. Now starting to occur as oil and the dollar are softening slightly. Silver now above its pre-market low, getting some nice buy side pressure. S&P getting a nice buy program. Sharply. You might get an algorithmic little squeeze here. Don't know how long it'll last, but it's starting to shape up. Still looking like it's rolling over just a tiny bit here. Nice push still occurring in SPY as the dollar softens up a little bit more. Still seeing heavy sell side pressure in these metals, man. Fuck. Slapped right back down there, silver. S&P still shaking and moving. S&P looking squeezy. Intel catching a nice bid here. Semis are trying to muster up a little bit of strength. Gold is starting to push. Heavy volume coming in on the silver trade. SPY's starting to rip here. Dollar's softening quite a bit. Your DXY rolling over into that opening range low. SPY's ramping here. She ripping. What a fat push on the indices. It's a huge volume candle on SLV. Massive. We're still falling here. Trimmed my silver SLV. Boom. Stop at break even. Trimmed half. Stop at break even. Got out at 49 cents there. Trimmed half. Nice little trade. Stop at break even. Nice little trade, guys. If you caught that with us. Next trim is right into this 236 fib level. But stop is at break even. Hard stop. Hard stop, guys. All right, beauty. Let's get it, man. That's what I'm talking about. Nice. All right, rip it, silver. Rip it higher. You know you want to. You know you want to. You can do it if you really want. You can do it if you really want. Someday. What a push in the market, guys. Big fat push. Still getting a fat bounce here in the tape, guys. Big fucking bounce. Microsoft, new high of the day, baby. New high of the day from Microsoft. It's a beast. It is a beast. This market's resilient, getting a fat bounce. Fat bounce. Let's look at these semis again, guys. Semis are still under a little bit of pressure, but had a really strong bounce as well. Look at that volume coming in on those semis. It's wild stuff, eh? Miller and Dixie are trying to push again, guys, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a slap down here. It's an opening range high breakout attempt. Orb traders are going to pile in long here in anticipation of the gap, but I would suggest that this is probably going to be a bit of a fake out here. Strong chance of a fake out. Just be careful. Just be careful. I would, if you're looking to go long, wait for a tiny pullback so that the risk is narrowed a little bit, but Prude and Dixie are still trying to bounce here. Microsoft still shaking and moving. There's your little liquidity grab and sweep, guys. So just be careful. Your Dixie's still trying to make a move higher. Still think that we can go lower in this tape, so just be careful. Be very, very careful. We could easily revisit the lows, guys. We could easily revisit. Just understand that. You're looking at QQQ to 700. What are we trading at right now? Yeah, yeah. You know what? QQQ could easily come down. I see that there's still a head and shoulders potentially forming. Or sorry, it's not a head and shoulders on the Qs. I think it's on the semis. The semis have a potential very weird looking head and shoulders that could take us easily down to here. I had it priced out today that SOXX on a max extension downside move could trade all the way to 488, which is kind of around this pivot zone here. So yeah, I mean, it could still happen for sure. Software's still holding steady. Now you got a big crude oil spike happening again. WTI, guys, is starting to shake and move one more time to the upside. XOM still trying to push. I think energy stocks are also looking interesting again. Valero looks strong. XLE still pushing. Software though still flying. So SPY's looking a little bit more vulnerable again. Microsoft new high day. Software still ripping here, guys. Semis are still seeing quite a bit of weakness here, guys. Lots. Still looking like it's going lower, potentially going to retest the lows of the session. Nokia is still down about 4.8%, looking weak. Semis are starting to retrace lower here. SPY could easily still revisit the lows, guys. Microsoft is a full beast, guys. Full beast. I'm gonna take a bit of a lotto on the semis. It's probably not gonna work out, but the contracts are like literally pennies. They're 2 cents right now. It's a lotto, so just understand that, and it's probably not gonna work out. But it's SOXS, so it's a SOXX short. $10 call, 0 DTE. Again, I don't think it's gonna work out, but if it hits for some reason, I mean they'll explode. Explode. And it's tiny size, guys. I mean, 2 cents a contract. It's fucking cheap. But just understand when it's a penny contract, the chances of it hitting are not that high. S&P still trying to get through that opening range. That's still acting quite well. Interesting. McDonald's still having a nice bounce. Netflix still holding steady. GME starting to squeeze. CRM still acting well. Certain financials are starting to turn green. XLF is green. Uranium still getting rocked. It's Nokia doing Nokia, still getting drained. Intel still struggling. Wow, Microsoft's just a beast right now, guys. Absolute monster. It's crazy. Still looks weak, guys, like it wants to head to the low of day. So just keep in mind these semis are still struggling. Still struggling. Holding that 30-minute EMA. Microsoft is still full beast. All right, your US dollar and crude are trying to make yet again another move. Microsoft is starting to push up 3.25. Apple's also turned green. Crazy strength. Microsoft is the market today. Look at that beast mode. All of semiconductor liquidity, guys. And this is probably why semis could still go lower, is because it's all crowding now back into your Microsoft trade. IGV breaking out of a potential inverted head and shoulders. I have no problems if you're wanting to trade IGV on the long side as a swing trade now with this inverse. Um, it's breaking out. It does have quite a bit of upside to about 95 if this pattern really clears this high pivot. Stop loss on this trade for me would be this opening range low on the swing trade. So this 89.90 pivot down here would be the area that I would close the trade if it were to fall below that. The only concern I still have is market, in my opinion, is still quite extended. But we're seeing a nice rotation, so it could work out. We still look at where the long end of the yields are trading, the 10-year yield, the 20, the 30-year. I mean, they are crazy high for, in my opinion, where the market's trading. But this is a resilient tape. So Powell's last day, it's interesting. It's going out on a banger. Nice hard sell day in the market for Papa Powell. Pretty funny. So QQQ is still weaker than SPY. IWM is your weakest indice. Market's still trying to charge here. IWM lagging. SPY still trying to shake and move here. Crude oil, guys, is looking like a W formation breaking out to the top side. Be careful here. Crude oil is about to break out and it looks like it's going back to the highs of the session. Therefore, it's likely going to have to push the dollar up here. So just be careful. If you're a net long, keep stops tight if you're in profit. We're still seemingly getting rejected at this opening range high. That is not a good sign because we've now tried breaking out once, twice, three times, four times, and we keep getting smacked here. And this is with Microsoft of 3.28, Apple at 0.85. So you can see how saturated the semiconductors are still in this market because even with Microsoft and Apple starting to pump, market's still struggling immensely. Gnarly. Nvidia is still trying to shake and move, pushing up a little bit. They're still trying here. Market's still trying to push here, hanging out right at that opening range. by June. June's worse than $10. That'd be good. All right, semis are still trying to bounce. Microsoft up 3.44, still pumping. So if we can get these SOXX S calls to $10, should be 1,000% gain. 10x. That's why it's a lotto, guys. 10x is don't happen easily. That's why it's a lotto. Crude oil spiking, dollar pushing again. Still got quite a bit of sell side pressure hitting the market. The big question is if Microsoft starts to come in with software, if they start giving back some of the gains, which IGV is seeing a little bit of profit taking at the highs here. That is the concern that could push the market back lower. For the time being, SPY still trying to consolidate above its 10-minute moving average. If it loses a 740.69 area, or specifically this high pivot here, if SPY falls below this high pivot, guys, it's going to melt. This 740 kind of 75 area. If it loses that, shit is going to get nasty. All in SQQQ. YS is all in on SQQQ. Good luck. Ready for you. Do 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 do. This market isn't done yet. Well, we'll see, right? It's been long overdue for a pullback. It's been long overdue. I mean, you look at the QQQ trading above the 10-day moving average for the longest streak in history. The longest streak in history, guys. How long has the stock market been around? So, whenever you make new records in the market, things obviously can remain bullish, but it's super extension moves. The semis keep trading into that 3 standard deviation band. That's not normal. I don't care if there's a RAM shortage or this or that. It's just huge euphoric speculation. And I mean, we could still hold into these areas and consolidate. You know, it doesn't mean we have to crash back down to, previous all-time highs. But we've barely even pulled back. We just tapped the 7-day moving average. Look at SPY, how much it keeps riding the 7-day moving average. The market doesn't often hold above the 7-day moving average with a rally like this forever. Even if we pulled back to the 20-day, it would still be a bullish back test. So you need some consolidation. I mean, this type of pattern just is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And that's where, like, even if you look at the weekly chart, right? Weekly 7 moving averages at 7, what is that, 708? So that would still be a bull market if you backtest the weekly chart. Now you look at price action, how we grind it up here, even during this tariff rally run, right? Price action at least consolidated sideways, let that 7-week moving average catch up. Same thing over here, caught up. Same thing over here, here. Whereas this rally has been one for the record books. But you look back at history and I mean, you often will revisit or at least let, if price action doesn't fall sharply, you at least trade sideways to allow these MAs to reset, catch up. But we haven't done that. We just keep rallying 1% a day, 2%. You know, the semiconductors have been, I don't know what they've been averaging, but it's been crazy. That's for sure. Nvidia softening up. Looks like it's going back down to the lows, guys. Semis are still seeing some definite sell side pressure. Looking at Micron, another leader, that's trying to hold. That's below the 7-day moving average for really the first time in quite a while. Let's look at Broadcom. That's coming in sharply. AMAT, that's seeing a high volume sell today off its earnings print. Nvidia still coming in. AMD still coming in, triggering the head and shoulder. And you look at some of the leaders, right? AMD and Intel. Intel is triggered a head and shoulders. Downside takes us to 97. AMD following suit, just triggering the head and shoulders today. Downside takes us to about 393 into that gap window. So, but like I said, when semis rotate, the initial knee-jerk sell-off in semis, like we're seeing today, causes pretty much everything to sell except for software today. But once the semis start to, you know, if they sell for a second or third day, you're going to see a lot of that capital rotate back into other names. And that's what I'm optimistic for, is that we should see this market broaden out a little bit more. And again, there's vicious bounces along the way. There's vicious bounces. Again, semiconductors still look pretty weak here, guys. Pre-market low. You can see SPY losing this pivot high right now. Looking real nasty. If we lose this zone, I'm going to adjust this high pivot a little bit more. You can see how price action is a battleground right here. It's a big battleground. Crude oil going for a new high of day potential. Cabin saying buy the dip. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're gonna sell us down a little bit more, but obviously there's still software guys. I mean, that's fucking pumping. IGV at 0.87, Microsoft new high of day. That's what I'm also watching on this other screen because semis are just getting annihilated. Quantum's getting rocked. China's under pressure. The whole market's pretty much under pressure except for your IGV basket. But Microsoft charging 424.50 just tapped. Microsoft's bumping them to some daily chart resistance. It's your EMA 113. It's been rejected off this level. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. This is the fifth time Microsoft is now heading into this daily chart resistance here. You know, you can see the last 4 times it pierced it and then gap down, huge rejection. But this time, maybe it might be different. I don't know. We'll see. But this is the beast stock of the day. Let's look at Apple Dapple. Apple's still holding steady. Amazon's under pressure. Tesla's getting rocked here. TSLA looking like a bear flag at the lows. SPY still defending that pivot. If you want to take SPY long off of this pivot, keep a tight stop loss below the 740.45 area. Nvidia is still shaking to the downside. Microsoft is a rocket. Holy moly. Looks like Microsoft may want to go for those gap fills. The first one's around 429.28-ish. And then the second one's above 432. What is it? 430, almost 433-ish. But Microsoft fully beast mode. Ripping to the top side, baby. Take a seat here, guys. I'm gonna take off early today. I got yeah, is Enphase? What's happened with solar? Oh yeah, look at Enphase. Holy moly. You're right, Polly. Solar is a beast. First solar going green, Enphase ripping. Nice, nice, nice. Oof, look at Solar Edge today. I didn't even see that one. Look at Solar Edge. Whoo-wee. Enphase. And this is what I mean by semi-selling. It provides so much capital to rotate into some of these smaller names. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. To the moon. Palo Alto's squeezing. How's Adobe doing? Is that thing alive yet? Trying. SLV making another little push higher, guys. Microsoft starting to take a breather off that daily chart resistance. Crude oil and the Dixie are starting to soften up just a touch here. Yeah, Netflix kind of has that. It's almost trades like a software in a sense. In my opinion, it is a software trade. Although it's a communication streaming basket, it has a software element to it. Um, so it's not in the IGV basket, but it might try to. It's tricky, right? I don't like the fact that it's into that big gap window, Netflix. It's a stubborn one here. Let's just take a peek here, right? Like we were long Netflix, and I said if we got that daily close below this area, I'd stop out. And we did, and that's been a good stop loss because it's been weak and it came close to filling this gap, but just missed it by a couple dollars there. So I don't know. It's coiling. It still looks weak though. Looks very weak. And I'm thinking now it has one more move down into this long-term trend line. Maybe even this 50% retrace, 75. I'd be a buyer for sure down there. But it looks like it's going to make one more move down. There's two gaps. There's this one and this one. I still think the earnings are great. That one-time payment from from Paramount is great, but it's struggling here. It's struggling a lot. So I'm going to stay away from it until we get a bigger dip into this. It's starting to look more like a bear flag. Netflix was shaping up a mini inverted head and shoulders on your smaller time frames, and the pattern you can see broke out and failed. So with that failure, I don't like it. I mean, if you want to try to stab it on the long side and your new stop loss would be this low, around 85 bucks, you can, but I still think it has a chance of going lower to this 79, $80 area. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait on it personally. This fucking Saidu space or Sea is holding up. Wow, how's Rocket Labs doing today? Coming in slightly, down 6%. ASTS down a little bit as well. Just want to see something here. If you were to get these $10 calls in the money, where would that take us? $369, so another 2.5% down. Yeah, so in order for SOXX to hit $10, we need to retest kind of this pivot low here, near this vicinity. So those $10 calls, they'll only get in the money if we retest this low. I find it hard pressed not to think we don't backtest this trend line or at least sweep it. Microsoft starting to pull in just a touch here. Still got a ton of weakness, guys. Lots. In terms of sector performance on the day, sector performance. Let's see what's going on. SPY breaking that high pivot, guys. SPY is a fat short underneath this high pivot. Looks like an opening range failure here. All right, so we got materials XLB down 2.13%, communications XLC down 0.4, financials were green, they just flipped red down 0.8, 0.8. XLE is strong up 1.72. XLK, which has been your strongest sector of the market, down 1.82%. Staples XLP slightly green but kind of flat up 0.01%. Real estate XLRE down 1.21, utilities down 1.22, XLV down 0.33, XLY down 1.58, and retail is down 0.62%. Looking at this XLK basket, let's just see where this looks like a head and shoulders potentially forming on XLK. It hasn't triggered, so just keep that in mind. But if you crack that little neckline, XLK is actually holding that opening range. That's pretty impressive. But man, it looks weak. Still getting some heavy components in semis, making new lows. AVGO, new lows. Nvidia still looks like a bear flag forming. Micron trying to firm up off that opening range low. Intel looking nasty, still forming a bit of an H pattern bear flag. AMD, that's trying to firm up, holding its pre-market low level, acting well. Let's look at Nokia here. Nokia still bear flagging but holding pre-market low levels. That S&P is holding on to that high pivot, man, like a champ right now. But it does look like we're running out of momentum. Crude oil and the dollar are still ripping here, guys. So just be careful if you're trying to trade long because I still think we can flush. That Dixie's going for a retest of pre-market high. We'll see what it does there. SOXX is sitting right on pre-market low. That is just getting gnarly. Microsoft still looking to push higher. IGV softening up a touch. MongoDB strong, Okta strong, DraftKings strong, DocuSign strong. Need to see something real quick. 29 days till the World Cup. Cool. 29 days. Not that far away. Less than a month. Less than a month. I'm excited, guys. Here comes SOXX. Bless me. Whoa. It's only 11 o'clock. We still got a ton of time, man. Ton of time. It's capital rotation. I've been talking about this in my videos and saying as soon as we get those semis to sell, like, just think about it, guys. Yesterday alone, Nvidia up 4%. One single stock, 250 billion. That is larger than like half of the S, like more than half of the S&P 500 companies. 250 billion. That's one stock. Not to mention Micron, Intel, AMD, AVGO, ASML, Taiwan Semi. The saturation in semiconductors have been a black hole sucking liquidity from value plays and quality companies, financials included. So now you're starting to see the market, and look at IGV and Microsoft. Even Microsoft up over 3%, and the market's still getting smacked around. Apple Green still getting smacked around. So these semis have just eaten up everybody's liquidity. And when it starts selling, it allows, although a lot of the liquidity has left the market and is now sitting somewhat in cash, you're obviously seeing accumulation in other aspects of the market. So we're talking trillions, and that's why it's like when these semiconductors keep going up 1, 2, 3% a day, I mean, we're talking massive amounts of money. Truly incredible. Funny money. So that's one of the reasons why other sectors of the market are holding steady, because a lot of institutions, funds, they have to stay net long the market, even when there's bloodbaths, and that's why we keep going up and to the right. Not everyone moves to cash. They simply rotate their money into other assets. And I still think there's going to be a day where we see semiconductors down, software down, every sector down. Every sector is almost red today, obviously minus your energy. But there will be a day where we see all sectors down, including Microsoft and semis. But that day's not today. All right, look at SPY defending that high pivot, guys. Pretty impressive. Still defending, but we're in no man's land. It's basically sandwiched between your OR low and high, but still holding steady. All right, I need to check something out here. Guys, it's just one big chop fest. I think that a lot of people are trying to buy calls to see if we get that gap fill. Then there's a lot of people just slamming puts. That's why we're going nowhere. I don't know what the imbalance is, but it seems that the only person winning in this chop range is basically the MMs. I think there will be a big move at some point near maybe the end of the day or once the London close occurs at 11:30, but we are just in a very nasty chop range. Microsoft, as soon as Microsoft starts losing some momentum, which it's starting to right now, you did print a bit of a 10-minute doji candle on its last candle. This new 10-minute candle seeing a little bit of sell side pressure. I am getting some profit taking signals. That's probably when the market starts to roll over again. So keep a window open for your software, because if software starts to sell, then we're going to go lower. Snapchat having a nice session. Retesting that high pivot again. Semis are still trying to hold steady. Nvidia still looks weak, weak, weak. Fuck. PayPal is still negative, trying to go green. A little bit more sell side pressure hitting software, specifically Microsoft. SPY losing that high pivot again, guys. Pretty key level for the market, that high pivot. Testing it again. SOXX is now underneath the 7-day moving average. Still holding about 4-hour chart support. All right, certain semis are trying to bounce a little bit of a buy program. Hitting your SOXX here. SPY's still trying to defend. Crude oil and the Dixie are making another push to the top side, or at least trying to. Still holding these SOXS lottos, guys. $10 lotto calls on SOXS. Again, if we hit 10 bucks, there'll be a thou wow. Nice 1,000%er. It's a lotto. 2 cents still a con. I still think they can flush us. They're burning out some zeros right now. Crude still looks strong, getting another buy signal on WTI. Dixie trying to firm up again, still holding its opening range low. Waiting on a dream. What a candle down on copper today, down 4.5%. Sheesh. Fuck. Aluminum also got wrecked. Aluminum nasty. Big pullback on uranium today. Seeing a sizable pullback. S&P still holding that high pivot. Acting well. Very well. Yeah, SMR's been struggling down here. Looks pretty weak on the daily, like it's gonna go maybe for the gap fill. I've been looking at getting it back into uranium specifically, URA, but it might want to retest the daily 200 and honestly, maybe even the 47, 48 Pierce level. I still like uranium, the thesis behind it. I think nuclear does have a strong future with power and energy production. I still think we have a bullish administration on nuclear, but some of these companies are just trash. Oklo, nasty. UUU's holding steady. Another one is Cameco. That seems to be that's the leader. What's CCJ doing these days? Yeah, big pullback on CCJ today. Yeah, uranium's been smoked. Absolutely smoked. It's trying to stabilize and bounce slightly. Microsoft still holding bullish consolidation. Nvidia still underneath its pre-market low, but trying to bounce here, holding 227. The SOXX ETF still looks somewhat weak, but SPY's gaining some momentum. Micron, yeah, Micron's holding steady. Nice push in the S&P. Dollar still surging. I wonder if 3M is going to get a bid here off the lows, trying to hold a higher low daily chart. With that hantavirus going around or governments trying to push the narrative, people, even though it's not a respiratory issue, people might try to buy masks again. Not really too sure, but nice push on the S&P. Defending that pivot quite well. SOXX is now making a nice move. Oh yeah, how's Boeing doing? BA. Big pullback, 2-day pullback on Boeing. That's a nice pullback. Axon is holding steady. That's up 1.85%, holding some relative strength. Interesting. GME still holding. Solar still ripping, although pulling back slightly. DraftKings still holding steady. Big push in the tape. Costco's still holding steady. Walmart reversing today. Big push in the tape. Big push in the tape. Semis are catching a nice bid off the lows. How low can you go? See if that turns into a liquidity grab. It might be. Might be a bit of liquidity grab there. Chipotle having a good day as well. That's another one that's trying to form a potential higher low. CMG has been defending this kind of the $30, $31 area for quite a long time. Hava's green, Celsius is green, CellH. Again, nat gas resource stocks are holding quite well. Adobe, ACN still ripping. Airlines are under pressure. Apple surging now. Apple making a nice push. Still just trading in no man's land, guys. Dollar new high of day. Dixie, guys, pushing. About to break out through that pre-market high. I think the market's going to get rejected here. Dollar is super duper strong. That's tough. I'm gonna take a bit of a lunch break here. It does seem like the market is trying to find a bit of support and push off of that high pivot. Still trading inside of OR high and low. We've tested this OR high a number of times, so you haven't got a definitive close on the 10-minute chart above that opening range yet. You've made a couple liquidity sweeps, wicks, but you have not made a close yet. So we'll see if it wants to push. It is looking a little bit more firm. But the problem now is you have Microsoft and some software starting to take a little bit of a pullback. On the other hand, semis are starting to gain a little bit of traction. Nvidia pushing up through its pre-market low. Intel is trying to attack its pre-market low. Micron trying to firm up just a little bit. So semis obviously gaining a little bit of traction here. We'll see if they can hold steady. On that note, guys, great job on the silver trade. And if anything crazy happens, I'll jump back on. But probably going to call the stream early today. Since it's a Friday, it's sunny. And hopefully all of you have a great rest of the trading afternoon, guys. Still got those SOXX lottos. Don't know if they're going to work out. Probably not, but we'll see. All right, guys. Take it easy. Just so you know, statistically, markets don't bottom on Fridays. Markets do not bottom on Fridays. So, to me, with yields still surging, guys, I mean, we look at that 10-year yield, guys. It had an initial pullback, and basically it's right back to the highs of the session. So this market could still easily sell with those yields pushing. 20 and 30-year yield had a little bit of a pullback, but they're now starting to also grind higher. So that's the concern. And as these interest rates go higher, cost of capital gets more expensive. You're seeing a broad-based sell-off in commodities minus your energy market, oil and crude. So the sell-off can still continue here, but for the time being, it's kind of chop and slop. If you break out through this opening range high, you could take probably a little bit of a lotto call to pre-market high on SPY. But I would keep tight stops if you're looking to trade. And right now, it doesn't look like there is going to be. It just looks like they're burning premium, guys. Burning people out. Chop and slop in this indice. Microsoft seeing a pretty big pullback. So I personally wouldn't be looking for longs in this tape today. At least on the day trade side. I still think it's a short to pop environment. All right, guys. We'll see you a bit later. Have a good weekend. Take it easy.